Well, hello there, and thank you for joining me. This is the Bible study for St. Mark Missionary Baptist Church in Florence, Alabama. It's a pleasure to come before you today and discuss Exodus 37 as we continue our journey through the book of Exodus. And believe it or not, we're almost at the end, St. Mark congregation, family, and friends. Well, around me you see obviously a lot of art. Behind me you see instruments. And the reason I have a lot of the art that my kids have created over the years and some of the instruments that we play here at the home, including my saxophone that St. Mark has never seen me play, is because I wanted to just say thank you. Thank you not only to our first responders, thank you not only to our essential personnel, but thank you to the homeschoolers, the people who are taking time to work not only your job at home through telecommuting, but also pausing to make sure that your children's educational journey continues at least through some time in May before that summer break begins. So I'm praying for you as you homeschool. Many homeschoolers have been concerned about their kids' journey through art and music, especially as we try to work through Google Meet and work through syllabi that have been given to us by their teachers, online instruction being rolled out. They're still concerned about how a person learns music, how a person really appreciates art when they're at home. So I thank God again for you as you try to be not only a teacher who's giving out education by way of a syllabus that's been provided to you to work through worksheets, but you're also trying your best to expose your children to the artistic side of education, to the arts, science, technology, engineering, math, and the arts. So let's go into the word today. Exodus 37, of course, still deals with art as we're finding out that Bezalel, he's one of those people that God instilled, infused, put his spirit within so that he is so artistic, so gifted. He has craftsmanship abilities that are out of this world, that he's been named the supervisor of all of the artistic work that goes into creating the tabernacle, or God's movable worship center for the Israelites as they're trekking their way through the wilderness towards the promised land. In Exodus 37, we're going to learn about 4 different types of furnishings, as we have, again, 4 different types of people. 4 just so happens to be the number of creation or creativity. So you have willing people, wise people, stirred up people, and gifted people, all ecstatically excited and working together. But as they are working, it's Bezalel, that gifted individual, who is leading the work in Exodus 37 on the ark and its mercy seat, the table, the lampstand, and also the altar of incense today. So as we begin our journey and just study Exodus 37 today, when you read it, the first thing you run into again is the ark. And you'll notice that as it was in chapters like Exodus 25, Exodus 30, you're going to see a repeat of the instructions on the assembly. So God is very careful in making sure that it's understood what is desired of Bezalel and Moses and others as they put together this artistic work that's going to go into the movable house of God. The ark, first of all, is going to represent the presence of God, the throne of God. And it's actually a piece of furniture, if you would, acacia wood that is overlaid with gold. It's 3 3/4 feet long by 2 1/4 feet wide by 2 1/4 feet high. It's again overlaid with gold inside and outside. And it again represents the presence and throne of God, but on top of it is what we call a mercy seat. Now, before I go into the mercy seat, let me just say inside the Ark of the Covenant over the years, we find the 10 Commandments, God's government. We find Aaron's rod that budded, demonstrating God's power. We also find a pot of manna, demonstrating God's ability to provide. Well, the mercy seat was symbolic of atonement, reconciliation, and mercy, as implied by its name, the mercy seat. It is made of pure gold, and it's 3 3/4 feet wide and 2 1/4 feet in terms of its height, or as it lays right on top of the Ark of the Covenant itself. And as we look at it, we see that there are 2 cherubim that are facing each other. Those cherubim are representative of those heavenly beings that we find in places like Ezekiel chapter 1, chapter 8, and chapter 10. And they are made with the same gold that was provided for the lid. They're fashioned out of it. These angels, these cherubim that are facing one another, are all one piece of heavy gold that are fashioned on top of that mercy seat. Their wings are overshadowing the seat. They're facing one another. And these cherubim represent the watchfulness of the angels over God's redeemed. Well, the next thing we're going to see is, as I said earlier, a table. And it's the table of showbread. It symbolizes, believe it or not, God's provision and him being the bread of life. As you know, he appears in the New Testament that way through the Son, Jesus Christ. And of course, we represent the Lord's Supper. At least we see that typified, represented here as well. It's also made out of the acacia wood that's overlaid with pure gold. It's 3 feet long by 1.5 feet wide and 2.5 feet high. And you're going to see that it even has a 3-inch rim made of gold all the way around the top. It has 4 rings on it so that it can be carried and it can be moved just like the ark was. Because again, these weren't fixtures that would permanently sit in place forever. They were meant to be picked up and moved whenever the people of God move. I talked about portability last week, being able to flow and move and go where God wants you to go. Well, the next thing we see beyond, again, the ark and this table is the lampstand. And the lampstand reminds us of the light of the world and how God enlightens us. It is made of pure gold as well, and believe it or not, I've read where this actually is somewhere around 66 to 70 to 80 pounds in terms of weight, as it's pure gold that was just hammered out, that was just fashioned. And there's a whole lot to the intricacies of it. You're going to see blossoming branches and decorations, 7 lamps, pure gold, and it's a beautiful thing. A lot of artistic work went into making it. But remember again, it represents God lighting up the whole world. That's a whole lot of power right there. And then the last thing you're going to learn about is the altar of incense. Now, let me just point out for those of you that have studied the tabernacle from the outer courts, you know, in fact, that the people of God on the north, the south, the east, and the west camped out. But we were working our way into the tabernacle from the east side, working our way towards the west, where the most holy place would be. And as we worked our way past the front, or the outer court, into the inner court, we're now in the most holy place with the ark. Outside the most holy place, you find again the table of showbread, the lampstand, and of course the altar of incense. The altar of incense, again, is not to be confused with the brazen altar that you ran into as soon as you came into the inner court or the outer court, but it's the golden altar. And it symbolizes the prayer and the communion of God's people ascending up to heaven. So it's symbolic of you and I praying. That's a powerful thing. So we've learned about 4 different furnishings today. We've learned about the ark. We've learned about the table. We've learned about the lampstand. And we've learned also about the altar. So we've learned about God's presence. We've learned about how God provides. We've learned about God's power to not just light up one home or a few homes in a city. He's bigger than Alabama power, but he's the power that lights up the whole world. And we also learned about the altar of incense and how our prayers should be pleasing to him. Well, as I close today again with all of this art around me and again these instruments, let me just say in advance, Happy Mother's Day. This is a piece of art one of my daughters made for Mom, or my wife. And of course, I want to wish those of you who won't be with me on Sundays, live stream, because you're attending some other one with your church, I want to wish you a happy Mother's Day. Again, thank you for joining me. I'm Dr. Will Boyd, and I appreciate you joining me for this study of Exodus chapter 37. May God bless you and keep you until we meet again the same time next week to discuss Exodus chapter 38.